Hello, team. Claire here from My Mortgage, and today I want to talk a little bit about my thoughts on the differences between the Blueprint to Build and Back My Build floating discounts, and looking at those with opposition to fixed rates. So, what we have seen over the last couple of years is that those fixed rates have come up a little bit along with the floating rate increases as well. And clients are now starting to look at what those differences are, and that gap is sort of, I suppose, shortening a little bit really in terms of the discounts that we can get. So let me paint you a wee bit of a picture. So Back My Build is a discounted rate, floating rate for 3 years from drawdown. So that's the start of your build for 3 years from that period of time. It's always been a discount off the floating rate. And at this stage, that discount equates to about 4.54 in interest rate offering. So it's a discount off the larger floating rate. Blueprint to Build is the ANZ offering, and that at the moment is sitting just over 4%. So the difference between the two is about zero point 0.5, and it's essentially that ANZ offer theirs for 2 years, whereas ASB's was for 3 years. No longer can access Back My Build. Blueprint to Build is still on offer. So what are the differences now? At the moment, we're looking at fixed rates of just over 5% for 12 months, so 5.1, and we're looking at sort of fixed rates of maybe 5.5 to 5.6 for 2 years. Obviously, that's about 1.5 to 1% difference from that floating rate. Where are rates potentially going to go? Well, obviously, no one knows for sure, but I think that floating rates and fixed rates are going to level off a bit over the next 12 months. Reason being that we have had a really, really high, quick rise in rates, and also it does appear that the Reserve Bank is getting on top of inflation, which is one of the things that they are tasked with doing. And they have pushed those rates up quite quickly up until now. So I think they will be really careful about rising and pushing them too far and pushing people sort of a bit close to the line. So the second thing is that we are coming out of COVID, and a lot of the supply issues that were underpinning the higher inflationary costs and what we're seeing coming through in the last 12 months are starting to ease a little bit. So our supply of offshore imported materials is improving. So that's actually hopefully going to help to reduce the price a little in New Zealand. Overall, I think that we could be looking at a bit of a stabilisation of rates over the next 24 months. So that might look like fixed rates sitting in the mid to late 4% range, and sort of 1 to 2 years sitting there, and then the 3, 4, 5 years maybe staying within that 5% range. Not certain if that's going to happen, but I think that we are probably still in for a little bit of a rise in the floating rate. And that is largely linked to the OCR, which is probably going to go up maybe 1 or 2 basis points more in this cycle. So overall, what does that mean? Well, I think that if you do stay on the Back My Build or Blueprint to Build rates for the next couple of years, you probably still will pay there or thereabouts similar to the 1 year fixed rate that's currently on offer. So I think you'll still be paying somewhere between 4.5% and 5.5% over that period. It's probably still going to be a little bit cheaper than if you take out a 2 year fixed rate today. However, there's uncertainty here that we really need to be quite careful of managing for each type of client. So what we're suggesting for a lot of customers at the moment is just looking at their budget, how much fat is in that budget, how much risk are they willing to take, and then making those decisions based on their situation. So, for example, some advice we've given recently on a client that was concerned about that Back My Build rate going up was that we actually could split out half of their lending into a fixed rate for 12 months, which gave them sort of around that 5% range. Obviously, they are paying more than if they stayed on the floating rate currently. They could see that rate creeping up, and they were sort of wanting a little bit more certainty. So that's something you can consider. I think overall, if you are looking at sort of seeking out the cheapest rate, then probably remaining on that Back My Build or Blueprint to Build rate is probably going to be about right in terms of what the 1 and 2 year rates might do over the next 24 months. But if you do want some more certainty and you are willing to pay just that little bit more to get that certainty, then we could look at breaking off some of those chunks of lending to reduce that risk. Overall, one thing I do want to mention is that once you do go off the Blueprint to Build or Back My Build rate, you can't get it back. So if you do move onto a fixed rate, you can't move back to that floating rate discount in the future. So it's just really key to be really clear on what your motivations are. I hope this has helped a little bit remove some of the uncertainties around what fixed rates and floating rates might be doing, and also how that might apply to you. But obviously get in touch with us and have a chat if you're unsure, and we can give you some advice that's fit for your situation.